Hello everybody, welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode we're going to be talking about Yiri versus Alexander Pereira. Guys, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know the sound is loud and clear as usual. I'm going to jump right into it and I'm going to give you guys my pick. I am picking Alexander Pereira. Why am I picking Alexander Pereira? My old Muay Thai trainer used to tell me, Muay Thai always wins. Muay Thai always wins. Now, we all know Yiri's a great striker. He's a fantastic striker. Of course, he does Muay Thai as well. He's got those Muay Thai spinning elbows. Don't let anybody tell you it comes from another art. That is pure Muay Thai. Spinning back elbows are pure Muay Thai. He's a phenomenal striker, a phenomenal athlete, and a huge light heavyweight. Huge. He's massive. I was watching his fight earlier today. I was watching his fight against Teixeira, and I was amazed. I forgot how much bigger he was than Teixeira. He looked huge compared to him. More athletic, stronger. Still, though, I'm picking Alexander Pereira. Why? I think Pereira is going to win the striking battle. He's going to be too tenacious. He's going to land the low kicks. Yiri has surprising elbows, and in Glory, there's no elbows. That's one thing. There are a few things I'm worried about, okay? Maybe Yiri's going to take Alex Pereira down because he's athletic. He's done more years of grappling and wrestling, and he's just not crazy. Yiri's a little bit crazy, but if on fight night, he's not crazy, and we find out Alex Pereira is not really good on the ground, which, I mean, how much time did he have to really develop a ground game? Everybody he's fought was pretty much a striker. Everybody he's ever fought was pretty much a striker. The UFC's not crazy. They gave him one wrestler. He got wrestled. He got pinned on his back. And then all of a sudden he did a scissor knee and knocked the guy out senseless. They gave him one real wrestler. Yes, he out-wrestled Adesanya, but I think it was really Adesanya being overwhelmed with the strikes, and he got surprised by double legs. Guys, Alexander Pereira is also a freak athlete. No doubt. But Yiri is a natural light heavyweight. He's bigger, he's stronger. The one doubt I have, guys, is that he gets taken down on the ground. But I don't have much doubt standing up. I see it as standing up. I think it's going to be 60-40, Alexander Pereira. Now, the only reason I'm not super confident in that is because Yiri's bigger. That's it. If they were, I'm wondering how is Alexander Pereira going to look at 205. I'm curious to see how he's going to look. I think he's going to look massive. I think it's the best weight class for him. He looked too big for Adesanya. It didn't seem natural. It seemed like he was probably killing himself. He was killing himself to make that weight. Maybe this is the best thing that ever happened to him. But still, I got to see them both side by side. Then I'll know. On fight night, not on the weight cut night. I feel I always get surprised on fight night. They look different. And I'll tell you something. If size is not a factor, if Pereira is really moving up and it's a more natural weight class for him, I think he's going to crush Yiri. Guys, I want to hear about all your comments and questions. I just want to tell you guys really why. The low kicks, the left hook, the pressure, the cadence. He's going to be busier. He's going to throw little choppy kicks at first. He's going to find Yiri's leg. It's going to kill Yiri's stance. If Yiri doesn't take him down, Yiri's going to get hurt. The two major things that I'm worried about for Pereira is that he gets taken down, and he's not really a guy who fought with a lot of elbows. Yes, there's elbow in MMA, but he did most of his striking years in Glory, where those surprising type spinning elbows can catch any man. Okay, so that's my take on the fight, guys. I'm keeping it short and sweet. Give me your take on the fight. I want to hear comments and questions just on the fight, guys, and then after that, of course, we'll move on to other topics as usual. Guys, don't forget to check out A Man's Guide to Throwing a Punch. It comes with a PDF. It's a masterclass in boxing. It's made for people who just want to develop a boxing routine. If you're a seasoned boxer, there's plenty of details in there for you, but it's mostly geared to somebody who wants to learn boxing, learn how to create a boxing routine. Okay, so check out A Man's Guide to Throwing a Punch. Even if you're a very seasoned boxer, you're going to learn some very nice details. I don't want to get into it now, but it's how to develop a boxing routine. It's quite simple, but the techniques in the video are very well detailed for you to develop an incredible boxing routine. Okay, guys, let me hear your comments and questions. We've seen Pereira at 205. Oh, yes, you're right. Who did he fight again at 205? Remind me now. I'm drawing a blank. He fought, what was it? Hold on a second. You're right. We did see him at 205. Who did he fight? I'm forgetting who he fought. Blachowicz. Split decision. Oh my God, I gotta go back and watch that fight. He lost to Adesanya. Yeah, that's right. I'm remembering now. We watched it together. We had a watch party. Guys, I watch countless fights. That's the thing. I watch countless fights. I watch so many fights. It's crazy. Guys, remember it was round one. Alexander got his back taken. I thought Alexander won. A lot of people weren't happy with the decision. I thought he put it on him. You're right. We did see him at 205. I'm really excited to see him up against Yiri. Because Yiri, when I saw him against Glover, I was very surprised how much bigger he was. I rewatched it today. I was like, wow, man. He's huge. He's huge. We've seen Pereira 205. Thank you for that. Thank you for that correction. Jiri is the most unpredictable fighter Pereira has ever fought. That's from Rambling. I agree with you 100%. Who knows what Yiri's going to do? I don't even think Yiri knows what he's going to do. He switches stances. He throws the most bizarre techniques. He does a lot of meditation out in the forest. He's thinking he's got a weird ponytail. He's channeling energies from all sorts. Me, I personally think the leg kicks are going to take all that magic away. The hard leg kicks. They're going to start choppy at first, and then all of a sudden, they're going to start getting heavier and heavier. And all that razzle-dazzle. Maybe I'm wrong, guys. I'm going to be in New York. I'm cornering in New York as well. So I'm really excited to be there, guys. I'm going to be watching this fight closely. I'm really excited about this fight. Is Yiri's magic? I've seen a lot of guys try magic and it not work. But once in a while, there's a guy who does something nobody else does. And he surprises the whole world. So, listen, it may be that night. I'm going to be watching like the rest of you. But I just feel that the low kicks are going to be kept. I was watching Yiri's stance. If he stands wide like he does with Pereira, he's going to get his legs chopped up. They're going to be mincemeat. Now, would that lead to a takedown? I don't know. Maybe. It was an insane fight. That's from Chemicals. I'm sure you're referring to Blachowicz. I got to go back and watch that. It was a great fight. I remember us watching it together. I did a watch party for that one, and not everybody was unanimous on who won that fight. But I remember saying that I thought Yiri had won that fight. Yiri's unpredictability decreases his striking defense. That's from Zubair. Zubair, you're very right. And let me tell you something. If that left hook lands, could be the beginning of the end. Could be the beginning of the end. In kickboxing and glory, I think that's the greatest left hook we've ever seen. Definitely, I would say even in MMA, he's probably got the best left hook. Who had a better left hook than Alexander Pereira in MMA? I can't think of one person. A better left hook. Not sure, no. Yiri hasn't gone to a decision. Yeah, he subbed Glover. Did he? He never went to a decision? No, it can't be right. Hold on a second. Yiri. He has one win by decision. Okay, so let's see. He beat Glover by rear naked choke. He beat Dominic Reyes by spinning back elbow, one of the most famous spinning back elbows in UFC. He beat Vulcan by overhand right, round 2. He beat CB Dollaway, left hook. He beat Fabio Maldonado with punches in round 1. That was in Ryzen. He beat Muhammad Lawal, punches in round 3. He beat Brandon Hazley. Guys, an impressive resume, but not as impressive as Pereira. Pereira's fought the who's who in glory. He won 2 divisions in glory, and also he defeated Adesanya 3 out of 4 times, and he beat Blachowicz. Okay, so I think his resume is far more decorated for Alexander Pereira. A lot of those guys I named, a lot of you might not know them. For Yiri, he's finished a lot of guys. Yes, he beat Molawal, but Molawal was way past his prime when he beat him. I like Yiri. He's a finisher. He's a killer. He beat Reyes. He's a killer. Can he do that to two-time glory champion? I don't think so. Coach, Potan is way too technical for Yiri, right? Yuri is going to get caught, and when he gets caught, it's night-night. That's from Flight Trap Coalition. Flight Trap Coalition. I think Yiri is a phenomenal athlete. And if he has a good coach, and if he has a good training if he has a good training camp, he should be able to double leg Pereira. He should be able to. He should, because when you have that kind of karate, taekwondo style, you're running around, you're not really standing there for rock'em sock'em type fight. You can use that in and out motion to score a nice double leg and just kind of take down a guy who's really hasn't had time to learn jiu-jitsu and wrestling. For sure, Yiri's been doing MMA much longer than Pereira all these years. He's been doing grappling and wrestling. Of course, he subbed a black belt. You know, he won the world title fight by subbing a black belt. Let me see how many submissions he has, Yiri. Hold on a second. Submissions. He has 3 wins by submission, 25 by KO. Guys, what does that tell you, man? That tells you he's a hard hitter. He's a hard hitter. No doubt he's a hard hitter. Both these men have savage power. I can't see how Yiri wins, man. You're yelling me unpredictable striking beats clean and powerful striking? Question mark. That's from Mono Orlando. When you put in takedowns, that unpredictable type striking can be very, very useful. Look, if there was no takedowns and they're in a 3 knockdown rule fight and it's a small ring, yes, clean technique, pressure wins. They're in a 30-foot octagon. They got 25 minutes. They have a lot more time. So movement, there's a lot more movement, and the distance is greater in MMA than in Glory. In Glory, they're cheek to cheek, man. They're glove to glove. There's not a lot of time. There's 3 5-minute rounds, and if that's a title fight, and they're going to war. It's just 15 minutes. This is 25 minutes. We're adding 10 extra minutes. That's a long time, and we're giving them a lot more space. You change the environment. You change the rule set, you change the time, that changes the outcome of the fight, changes the strategy. Now that pacing in and out can be kind of useful because you can blitz, you can surprise, you can lull him into a fight that's a little bit slow and he wants to increase pressure, and when he does, you double leg him. King Mo knocked him out too. Really? Hold on a second. I saw one fight of theirs. I remember watching Yiri versus King Mo. Oh, you're right. He lost to King Mo. That was back in 2015. I haven't seen that one, actually. His only loss. Right, Yiri has 1 loss only. Oh, no, he has 3 losses. Excuse me. Hold on a second. Yiri has 3 losses. Okay, these are old ones. One in 2013 by Abdul Karim Adilov, rear naked choke, and from Bojan. That's in 2012. Guys we've never heard of when he was young in his career. Those are 2 old, very old losses. Okay, guys, let me hear more comments and questions on this fight. Yiri beat Reyes, but Dominic rocked him pretty good before that one. That's from him. Yeah, I remember that fight. He did kind of rock him, but then Yiri kind of went into a whole other gear, man. And his athleticism is, I would say, incredibly impressive. Incredibly impressive. Folks, bet your hard-earned money on my boy Alex Poatan Pereira. My boy will lose all the rounds, but we know what he's capable of when he wants to end the fight immediately. Let's go, Poatan. Guys, that's from Shiz. Shiz is a long-time super chatter extraordinaire and a gentleman and a scholar. Do you think Alex will try to knock out Yiri with his counters or insane left hook? Thanks. That's from Lyman. I think he's going to chop the legs. He's going to see that stance. He's going to kind of just kiss the leg. Pop, pop, with little kicks. And the kicks are going to get more violent as he gets more comfortable. He's going to want to shield and parry and block a few of Yiri's punches. When Yiri punches, he's going to chop that leg. He's going to chop that leg. If he hurts Yiri's leg and finds it, he's going to start blasting harder kicks, and of course, sooner or later, he's going to throw a scissor knee. Okay, Poatan throws the pedalada, the scissor knee, and nobody does it better than him. There's not a soul I've ever seen who has a better scissor knee than Pereira. And in Yiri's stance, Yiri might eat that in the face because he's so wide and he's squatted down. Man, he might get kneed in the face real bad. Anthony Smith, the GOAT on paper. That's from Larry Bird. Larry Bird trolling in the chat. That's not good. Does Yiri have the wrestling to take down Alex? That's from Joey Kramer. He's not the best wrestler. Okay, he's definitely not the best wrestler. When Teixeira took him down, it was kind of like, he gave a minimum effort in wrestling. But if he's so athletic, I personally would teach him double leg. I would make him do double leg the whole camp. Double leg has a lot to do with athleticism, speed, explosiveness, timing. It's not a complicated move. It is not a complicated move. If I was fighting Alexander Pereira, I'd want Alexander worried about my double leg. Even if I don't get him, I want him thinking double leg. And if he sprawls my double leg, I'm going to throw an elbow and a knee. I'm going to have a backup plan. And I'm going to keep making him think double. Because I don't want to go toe-to-toe in a boxing match with Alexander Pereira, go rock him, sock him, go like what Strickland did. Bad idea. Bad idea. Shoot the legs, get in his legs, tie him up, punch off the break. Keep him thinking about striking and wrestling at all times. If he makes one mistake, he's on his back. And if he's on his back, I'm going to sub him. I'm going to pin him. I'm going to ground and pound him. That's what I would do. I think Yiri's a smart guy. I think he's not crazy enough to go toe-to-toe with Alexander Pereira. Coach, do you agree with Anthony Smith's take on Alex Pereira, on Alex saying his power is nothing special at 205? That remains to be seen. Blachowicz is a tough guy to put away. He didn't put him away. Sometimes you don't get a finish for 4 fights, 3 fights. It's not the case with Alex, and then all of a sudden you see a fighter go on a 5-fight win streak, or it's the opposite. They go on a 5-fight win streak, then they don't finish somebody for 2 or 3 fights. It doesn't mean because you've knocked out so many opponents in the past that every fight is going to lead to a knockout. No, he just didn't knock out Blachowicz, but it doesn't mean he's not going to go on a 4 or 5 fight KO streak right now. I think there's a high chance he finishes Yiri. I think there's a very high chance. Why? Because the man has such a devastating left hook. He's got 25 minutes to chop Yiri's legs. And I don't know, man. I think he's just going to chew those legs up. What are the chances that Yiri can catch Alex? That's from Zach. I think they're very... Look, he just got knocked out by Adesanya. He came back. He fought a light heavyweight, won the fight. Some people didn't like the decision. I thought it was a legitimate fight. Blachowicz has a crazy left hook of his own. He withstand everything Blachowicz had to give him. I think that if he chops Yiri's legs, Yiri's not going to have the power to finish him. However, if he doesn't, and Yiri connects, man, Yiri can knock out anybody. He's a very, very powerful, athletic individual. Who's going to be pushing the pace more, in your opinion? I definitely think, no doubt, Alexander Pereira. Alexander Pereira wants to get in his face. He wants to fight him in a phone booth. He wants to chop those legs. He wants to throw hands, and he wants to put that pace. Glory fighting is very high pace. Guys, I've trained with Glory fighters. I just trained with the Glory champion Elias in Morocco. He's a killer, man. Their pace is so high. It's much higher than MMA. Much higher. MMA, there's smaller gloves, greater distance. We're looking for 2 or 3 shots and get out. These guys know. In Glory, it's pressure. It's they want to overrun you with pressure. The safest place is to be on the inside for them. Usually a lot of these Glory fighters, they grew up in a ring. In a ring, there's not a lot of room to run around. If you run around, you get stuck in the corner. You get corralled into a corner, and that's a bad spot. In the octagon, there are no corners. There are wedges maybe, but no corners. And you have a lot more room. Guys, that makes a massive difference. Then you make the gloves smaller. Well, wait a second. All of a sudden, I don't want to stand in the pocket where we're trading back and forth. In Glory, your gloves protect you a lot more. And your opponent's padding has more padding. Has more padding. That combination of you having more padding and him having more padding just makes for a different fight. It makes for a different feel, different pace. And in MMA, you just can't. You rarely can keep that pace for the entire fight. Maybe in the end of the fight where the two athletes are not as explosive, then they'll start mimicking that Glory style where they're in the pocket hitting each other, because they're not hitting that hard because they're weakened from maybe an exhaustive round and a half of wrestling, scrambling, etc. And then all of a sudden they're up on their feet, huffing and puffing. It's a different cardio. MMA, When you wrestle, you're scrambling, you're out of a guillotine, then you're on your partner's back and you're scrambling, and then all of a sudden you're back to punching, man. Your muscles are filled with lactic acid, you're burning, your lungs are burning, and now you're going to start punching. Well, maybe you're going to do more of an efficient rock'em sock'em style glory type infighting. But infighting is not as common in MMA as it is in kickboxing. And infighting is higher pace. So Glover Teixeira, Alexander Pereira, is used to a higher pace of fighting. Alex will gas. That's from Christian Shaw. I really doubt it. Honestly, I don't think he'll gas. Unless he gets taken down and put in bad positions. Then yes, because he's unfamiliar with the grappling. I think that's his glaring weakness. Demetrius Johnson thinks Yiri will be the aggressor. Interesting to hear both perspectives. That's from Ryan Murphy. He'll be the aggressor if he takes the fight to the ground. Then he'll just maul. I think Pereira is not a great grappler. But if it's a striking battle, I don't think Yiri puts the pressure on him. I think he's going to get his legs chopped. Excuse me, guys. Pereira has blindingly fast kicks, and he has long legs. He has a huge reach. And Yiri stands wide. It's a combination for disaster for Yiri's legs, in my opinion. Do you, sir, think that there is a possibility that Yiri lands that straight right that rocked Alex twice like Izzy did, especially because he kept his hands low, so it's hard to see coming? That's from Adan. Yiri's got power in both hands. He could blast a straight right. Of course he can. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Anybody can get caught with a straight right hand. And I mean, it's just such a violent shot. I just feel, man, they're both finishers. What can I tell you? I just feel that Pereira is going to be smart. He's going to take out the legs. He's going to weaken. Guys, if you've ever been kicked in the leg, okay? The more you get kicked in the leg, the less punching power you have. It's a fact. If you get kicked in the leg, the more you get kicked in the leg, the weaker your boxing gets, because you're generating power from your legs, right? So your legs are not operating at a full capacity, so it affects your punching power. It affects your punching power. I think he's going to chop those legs. If he chops those legs, it's just really, really hard to generate KO power. Talk to us about Alex's touch of death. That's from Andrew Knoll. Listen, he's got the touch of death in that left hook. He stuns guys. He puts them. But when he stuns them, they're stunned in a way like they're a sitting duck. Like, you remember when he hit Adesanya? I think it was their third fight, counting their kickboxing fight, of course. Adesanya was out on his feet. It's like the Mortal Kombat. Finish him. Like when he hit Strickland with it, Strickland was like dazed and dancing. Like, the shockwave was just so amazing. He wasn't out. He was like, and then he just got TKO'd. But I gotta watch that again. It's a fascinating left hook. It's like he stuns you so bad. Let me see if I'm sure they released that fight. I just want to see the KO real quick. Strickland just walking him down. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He hit Strickland on the chin. Strickland went down to a knee, like he was kind of wobbled and down on a knee. And just like in that finish him state, just like, that's incredible, man. It's just an incredible shot. Like, it's finish him and just sitting there. He's sitting duck. Same thing happened to Adesanya. I thought Adesanya was going to get the scissor knee and he was going to get knocked out senseless. That's why I was happy the referee stood in. I know Adesanya was angry at first. I'm glad that his corner admitted that, hey, he was done, because Pereira's scissor knee, I think, could have really hurt his career. Really, it's a very dangerous shot. Could have fractured his orbital, could have broke his jaw, could have given him an injury that's going to last many years into his career. That left hook, man, something special. Coach, are you expecting a beautiful right or left hook from my boy Alex to end that day quickly? That's from Shiz. Shiz, I think he's going to land that left hook. That's his best shot. He's going to land the scissor knee. I think he's going to start with kicks. He's going to go in there. He's going to be very conservative with the head. He's going to protect his head. He's going to chop those kicks, chop those kicks, chop those kicks. He's going to be active with those kicks. He's got 25 minutes to chop those legs. If Yiri doesn't find an answer soon, right away, he's going to, I think, get knocked out. But again, guys, these are two powerful guys who could knock each other out at any second. Love from Scotland and Egypt. Thanks for making my day. I just got response by Coach Zahabi. I will add to my CV. That's from Adman Mustafa. My pleasure, man. Thank you. And I don't understand how you're from Scotland and Egypt at the same time. Are you in both places at the same time? Is that a logical possibility? Coach, just here for gentleman and a scholar shout out from Emil. For Imal Amiri, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you for joining our channel. You didn't read my super chat. Okay, I missed the super chat. Shit. No, I did not miss any super chats. Not that I see here. Sorry, Mr. Sufi Mir. I did not see your super chat. Okay, guys, I'm ready to move on from this fight. I want to talk about Fury and Ngannou. I saw Fury and Ngannou. I saw it. What can I say? Number one, Fury looked out of shape. He wasn't out of shape. He didn't gas out or anything. I'm not blaming him. He just looked overweight and flabby. Like you're getting ready for a world title fight, man. You're getting ready for a world title fight. You should be slim, trim. I understand there's a genetic issue perhaps. Maybe he's not the slimmest guy naturally. But he didn't look like he got ready for a world title fight. He boxed well, but he'll never go down as legendary status now. He will never. Boxing scholars will never mention him when they talk about the greats. They will never mention him when they talk about the greats. He should have annihilated Ngannou. Ngannou's an MMA guy who's done years and years of wrestling. And he's coming in there and arguably beating Tyson. Guys, I gotta be honest with you. I got bored after Ngannou knocked him down. I thought Ngannou did great, by the way, guys. I want to congratulate Francis Ngannou for a brilliant performance. Before I go and start digging into Tyson Fury, let me just say, Ngannou left UFC as world champion, went into boxing, fought the heavyweight world champion, and in the estimate of most people, beat the heavyweight world champion, and he knocked him down. Now, I got to be honest with you guys, as I was watching the fight, I got bored and I stopped watching it. Then I got to round 5. After round 5, I was getting bored. I thought Ngannou was doing good. I thought Fury was just like, it was just not at his best, man. That was not his best night. He didn't look in shape, and he was jabbing a lot, moving around. There was no sense of urgency. I don't understand why he didn't try to infight at least with Ngannou a little bit, try to put the pace on Ngannou. Ngannou's volume was not as high. It was not high. I thought Tyson Fury's volume was too low for a boxing fight. I thought he should have put more pressure on Ngannou. I was really, really surprised at how much respect he gave Ngannou. Listen, he got knocked down. I think it was the second or third. If I remember correctly, it was the second round, I want to say. It wasn't impressive for a world champion boxer to be fighting a guy who's done years and years of wrestling. It just was not impressive. It was not impressive. I don't think he'll ever be remembered as one of the greats. He needs a 10-fight win streak to undo this. He needs something colossal in the next 3 or 4 or 5 fights. But I want to applaud Ngannou. Ngannou, in the estimation of many, won that fight. Guys, give me your thoughts on Fury and Ngannou. Fury looked flabby is nothing too new. That's from Swish. You're right, but just it looked worse. It looked worse, man. I had trouble looking at him. I had trouble looking at the man. I ain't fat shaming him, but the man's a world champion. He should have went in there tip. I don't even have to have a six-pack. Like, I get it. Maybe he's not naturally lean, but still, man, he was bouncing around and he had love handles. I think he looked like a guy who just didn't do the work. He cut corners. He expected an easy fight. Maybe did a little bit too much drinking. He didn't look at his best. He threw one big right hand, got countered with a hook, like that. It can happen to anybody, but still, he didn't look right. He didn't look good. He didn't put his hands together. He was throwing too many jabs, and I'm a jabber, and I love jabbing, but I think at one point he should have got on the inside with Ngannou. Ngannou was kind of chasing him around and didn't have the footwork to cut off the ring as much as, because he's a wrestler too. He's more heavy-footed than a boxer, but still, he could still outdo Fury. It was insane. A really disappointing performance by Fury. I hate to say it, but I have to say it. I have to be honest. I was not impressed by Fury. Coach, how do you think Izzy would do against Procházka at 205? That's one objective. I really don't like Izzy at 205. I think he should be a 185er. I think he would lose against Yiri. I think he would lose. I think he would eventually get caught. He would get mauled, man. Yuri's way too big. Look, Pereira was too big for Izzy. Imagine Yiri. I think Yiri. Adesanya moves around too much. Yiri won't get pressured. I think it's the leg kicks and pressure that's gonna hurt Yiri. Does it bother you that a boxer still take down on martial arts, especially grappling? That's from Gabriel Martin. Does it bother you that boxers still talk down? Excuse me. I don't have my glasses on. Still talk down. Yeah, listen, boxers are just insecure. I hate to say it, man. They're just insecure. They're like, oh, these wrestlers, these grapplers, these MMA guys, they kick, they punch, they elbow, they knee. They're 100 times tougher than us because, let me tell you something, guys. In the 80s, in the 90s, if you were a champion boxer, if you were the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing, you were considered the world's toughest man. That was the crown. You were the uncrowned world's toughest man. Unknowingly, people didn't know back then that a wrestler could 9 times out of 10 take down a world champion boxer. Like if you put a heavyweight wrestler with a heavyweight boxer, I'm betting, and strictly from those sports, they're not cross-training in MMA. I'm telling you the wrestler's going to win 9 times out of 10. He's going to be scared to get hit. He's going to dive in those legs. He's going to throw him on his back, and he's going to maul him. But before UFC, people didn't know that. People thought that wrestling was like, if you try to grab me, boom, I'm just going to punch you. It's just not. It wasn't known that wrestlers are hard to avoid. Once they grab you, if you're not trained in wrestling, you're going to get destroyed. A heavyweight wrestler would destroy a heavyweight boxer 9 times out of 10. So they always had that mystique. Now you have this wave of MMA fighters where everybody's like, "Hey, we kind of forgot about boxing. The toughest guy in the world is this UFC guy who is the heavyweight champion. That's the toughest guy in the world." So they want to sell their tickets. They want to look down on us. They say we don't know what we're doing. It's not true. It's not true. Of course, boxers would have an edge in boxing. But let me tell you something. MMA fighters can be very, very competitive in boxing with boxers, world champion boxers, etc. But boxers would not be competitive in MMA. Even if they try to convert and train, they would need to completely convert to MMA to have a chance. It's really, really tough to compete in MMA with just a little bit of training of MMA, and then I'm going to jump in. No, you get destroyed. You'd have to jump in with both feet. Now, an MMA fighter doesn't have to jump in with both feet in boxing because so many of them are already great boxers. That's their style of MMA fighting. So there's that to consider and when it comes to that. However, I find it to be petty when boxers try to look down at martial artists. I find it to be ridiculous. Is it true most heavyweights in boxing these days don't compare to past heavyweights? Does Fury compare to the past heavyweights? I don't think so, to be honest. That's from Hassan. No, in no way, shape, or form do they compare to Ali, Frazier, Foreman. There's no way. Ali, Foreman, Frazier, those guys, in my opinion, were probably the 3 greatest heavyweights in history. And they were born in the same era. and they all fought each other, and it was just like the golden era of heavyweight boxing. Now, Mike Tyson, unfortunately for him, he didn't have that counterpart. You know, when he fought Holyfield, that was when he past his prime. When he was in his prime, there was no Frazier, there was no Foreman for him to fight. There was no Ali. There was no guy out there who had that mystique. We always try to, people always debate who would have won, Ali or Tyson. That's something boxing scholars argue about all the time. Guys, sorry, I don't know, for some reason my eyes are acting up. Can someone be a BJJ world champ if he starts at 21? That's from Idris. Yes, absolutely. You'd have to dive in full head on, but there's definitely, there's a lot of championships in jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of, you could be an IBJJF world champion, you could be a no-gi something world champion, there's a lot of organizations. You could be, you can go win a title, I don't know, who's number one. It can happen, absolutely. It can absolutely happen. Assalamu alaikum, coach. You're a national treasure. How do you think of Usyk? How do you think of Usyk is going to do against Fury, given how Tyson looked against Francis? I think Usyk is going to tune him up. I think Usyk is going to tune him up. That was from Hamza Farouk. Assalamu alaikum, Hamza. Yes, I think Usyk will tune him up. What form of martial arts training should I focus on for my kids? That's from Gunnar Lad. I would suggest grappling and wrestling. That's going to help develop their athleticism. Striking, save it for later. And also, don't allow blows to the head until they've matured, they've passed puberty. Minimize the blows to the head. It's very important, especially when they're very young. No blows to the head. Zero blows to the head. If you're going to teach them striking, just make them do drills, hitting the bag, hitting mitts, do kicking drills and stuff like that in the air, shadow boxing. But no impact training, please. Coach, do you reckon that Beterbiev could beat Bivol or Canelo? That's from Sensei. Yes. Beterbiev, in my opinion, pound for pound, can beat anybody in the world. Coach, how do you think GSP does in professional jiu-jitsu? That's from Superal. I think George will do amazing. Now, he was supposed to fight in December in jiu-jitsu, but he injured his shoulder, so he's out. And we're waiting for him to remedy that situation. Once his shoulder is better, I look forward to him competing in jiu-jitsu. I think he can do incredible. Coach, what is your advice in increasing athleticism in your 20s and 30s? That's from Camden Mayday. I would say sprinting. Sprinting is the number one exercise. Check out Strong and Stable Running for Life. It comes with a PDF with a sprinting program. Guys, sprinting is the number one exercise in the world. Nowadays, I'm liking Airdyne sprints as well. I'm using the Airdyne, the air bike more. Because it's just so inconvenient for me to go to the track, run outside, the weather, this and that. I'm really liking Airdyne, and of course I like the row machine. I think sprinting on an Airdyne and sprinting on a rower is very good. It's complementary to running, but running is still king. Why? It increases bone density because of there is a type of impact. You're throwing your entire body weight on your limb, and you have something called ground force reaction. You have to explode off the ground. When you're pedaling, you're gradually increasing force on the pedal. There's not that rebound that you get in sprinting. When you're rowing, the same thing. The force is transferred much slower, more gradually. Now, there are pros and cons to running, and there are pros and cons to rowing. Rowing uses more muscles. Rowing actually is it's good for developing your grip, your back muscles, etc. It's going to hit different muscles, okay? So they're complementary. But if I had to choose one exercise to develop athleticism for combat sports, it would be, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would pick sprinting. Fun fact about Khabib Nurmagomedov: undefeated and never been KO'd, knocked down, bled, cut, and never showed any type of weakness. John Jones can't say that. GSP can't say that. Go 29-0. Thoughts, coach? That's from Shiz. That's a very, very good comment. I agree with you. He's never been cut, but he's been kind of wobbled a bit. When he fought the Dustin Poirier. Look, I wasn't super panicked when that happened, but a lot of people jumped to their feet. So we can't say he was flawless. Against Michael Johnson, he got stunned a little bit, you could say. But you're right. He's never been rocked. He's never been cut. He's never been punished. I mean, McGregor hit him with his left in round 3, and it just looked like nothing. He just kind of whipped his head and just kind of spit on the floor and just kept fighting. Like he kind of spit and he just didn't care. Khabib didn't care getting hit. That's why I personally think he's better than Makhachev. Excuse me. Ultimately, he's better than Makhachev. One, he has a chin like it's ridiculous. His chin is ridiculous, absurd, and he has he's never shown any form of getting tired at all, Khabib. Whereas Makhachev in round 5 with Volkanovski, we saw him like kind of look, he got tired. He was on his back, I think he's just a higher level of than Makhachev. And I like Makhachev's striking style better than Khabib's, but I just think that Khabib is just such a hard puncher. He has such an incredible chin, and he has a good jab, even though he's mechanically not sound. His mechanics are not perfect. Makhachev has better kicks. Makhachev has better distance control, but still, Khabib literally runs at you. Like when he was fighting Barboza, he was literally jogging forward in the fight. Barboza was backpedaling. Barboza doesn't tip-tap. He doesn't chip away. Barboza throws everything in his shots. Everything. The hard low kicks, the hard hooks, the hard right hands. He winds up and he throws. Barboza, when he strikes, swings for the fences. And Khabib was jogging towards that. He was like jogging towards him, blocking, shielding. He just wanted to grab onto him. Grabbed him, mauled him, of course. For those of you who didn't see that fight, it was just a destruction. But you'd think, oh, let me be careful. Let me slip and block and jab. No. He just ran towards it. When he fought Gaethje was blasting leg kicks. And look, I had lunch with Khabib. And we were talking, I had lunch with Khabib, but we trained together and then we had lunch and we were talking about it. And me and him and a bunch of guys were talking about it. And one of Gaethje's friends was there, buddies, we're all trained together. And Khabib was like, oh, because Gaethje's friend was going to mention that, like, they've had this conversation before. And he's like, oh, let me guess, the leg kicks were punishing. Khabib was kind of like saying, like, the kicks, he felt nothing. He was telling us he felt nothing, but he wanted to kind of cut off his friend short. He's like, oh, let me guess, you're going to start saying his kicks were good. At least he had the kicks in. At least he got those kicks in. Because the other person at the table, which I don't want to mention his name, was going to advocate. And I'm just sitting there listening to this, kind of smiling because I just love Khabib. And he's like, yeah, the leg kicks. Go on about the leg kicks. Tell us all about the leg kicks. Like he just, basically, Khabib was trying to tell us at the table that the leg kicks meant nothing to him. And Gaethje has punishing leg kicks. I don't know what it is about Khabib, but it's like he never shows pain. He doesn't show vulnerability. He doesn't, I don't know, people can't guillotine him. People can't wobble him. They can't back him up. What can they do to this man? He's arguably the GOAT. Yes, I totally agree with you. It's a phenomenal observation. I've noticed it myself. I've talked about it in the past as well. It's phenomenal how robust he is. It's incredible. It's just freaking incredible. Guys, when he shot in on McGregor, watch that fight. Round 1, he shoots in on McGregor. Now, I'll tell you something. He backed up McGregor. He backed up. Like, round 1 starts, McGregor walks up to him like this, like his hands are out. And McGregor wants to counterpunch. He's hoping. He even put his hands down at one point. He's like, throw a punch at me. McGregor's got those eyes, man. He's got those eyes. He's going to slip and rip. We all know he's going to slip and rip. Khabib backs up, circles along the fence. Unusual Khabib behavior. Unusual. Now, Khabib's no fool. He knows that this guy he gets his knockouts always in round 1 and maybe sometimes in round 2. But round 1, this guy's a computer. Khabib circles, shoots a low single, and gets kneed in the head. A lot of people miss that knee. McGregor kind of half sprawls and throws a knee to the side of Khabib's head. That knee could have knocked out many fighters. Khabib took it like it was nothing. Rewatch that fight. You're going to see it's a very sneaky, sharp knee. You have to rewatch that fight. It's free, I think, still on YouTube. A punishing knee. Took it like nothing. Nothing. It was nothing. Guys, I know I rambled on about this, but it's incredibly unusual. I've never seen anybody as robust as Khabib. Never. Never. I've never seen a robust human being like this man. Like he took that spinning kick from Barboza. That's from Andrew Knoll. Yeah, that's right. He took a spinning kick from Barboza. Just kept jogging forward. Just like it was nothing. Zahabi, you're a halal of a coach. Leonardo. I like play on words. Nice one. Coach, please check out Muslim Skeptic Debate with Matt. Oh, I have. I actually spoke to him about it. I had a live chat with him. That's from Adam Rogers, guys. I've spoke to him. I crashed one of his live streams. He was doing a post debate. I crashed his live stream. I was in this chat and I was like, I'd love to be on this podcast. And he sent me a link and we had a little chat. Check out his post discussion video. Guys, just a quick little note on the debate. Matt Dillahunty didn't engage with any of the points Muslim Skeptic did, and it was just ridiculous. Matt Dillahunty is not a philosopher, guys. I'm sorry to tell you. He's not a philosopher. He's a very smart guy, but he's not a philosopher. He's like, give me scientific evidence. Give me scientific evidence. Give me objective proof. And then later on, here's the thing, okay? I don't want to go on a sidetrack here. I don't want to go on a tangent, but anyways, I'm not going to go into a tangent, but he has a limited scope. He's in the scientific paradigm, which is great. We all love the science, but there's more than the scientific paradigm. We cannot limit ourselves to just the scientific paradigm. That would be to call things we know are true. That would be us denying things that we know are true. There are things that exist outside the scope of science. You kick me, doesn't matter. That's true. That's Khabib, my friend. You kick him and it doesn't matter. I missed a super chat. Is that possible? Bas Rutten said you can use the top of your skull to break people's hands in a street fight. I understand using elbows to break hands, but skull feels like a last resort. Any truth to this? That's from Hassan Haytham. Absolutely true. This part of your skull is one of the hardest bones in your body. I think the heel is first and then this is second here. When somebody punches you, you better tuck that chin and let him hit you here. You can't always swipe it. You can't always shield it. If it's going to hit you here, if it's going to hit you in the head, you want it to hit you here on the crown here where I'm pointing in the screen. But I've seen guys get knocked out here. Rare, but I have seen. It's very rare. I saw Prince Nassim once punch a guy right here, boom, and knock him out. I was very surprised because it does send a shockwave down the line, right? So you can possibly knock you out. It's not the best strategy, but if you're going to get hit, that's where you want to get hit. How far could you have gone if you fought in UFC? That's from Dixie Normis. I don't know, man. Honestly, it's all depends. Like if I had the right trainer, if there was money involved and I could do it full time, I think it could have went really far. You know, I spar with all the greats. I train with all the greats. I don't want to tell you what went down in the gym. When you talk to them, ask them, hey, have you ever trained with Coach Zahabi? Have you ever sparred with him back in the day? Let them kind of like tell you what's what. Salam Coach, can you tell us what you ate today for each meal? That's from World of Pivotify. All right, let me tell you what I ate. I woke up in the morning, I ate a bagel, I carved up, worked out, had a long session, but I didn't roll. I did a striking session in the morning, then I didn't roll because I hurt my neck a little bit. My neck's a bit tweaked, so I did Airdyne. I did an Airdyne session because I just wanted to, push the cardio. Then I came home and I ate fette. Fette is a beautiful Lebanese meal. I've been traveling a lot. I just got home. My mother's like, what do you want to eat? I'll make you food. You know, good old mom. They don't make women like this anymore, my friends. They don't make women like this. Oh, you came from a long trip? Let me make you something you're going to be enjoying. I asked her for fette. Fette is my favorite dish. It's like, it's a savory dish, but made with yogurt. And it has bread, cow tongue, chickpeas, a type of yogurt with like olive oil and like what do you call those nuts? I'm forgetting, pine nuts. And it's just the spices put on it, guys, are just incredible. The spices they put in it are just incredible. Fette. You guys have to eat fette once in your life. It is a phenomenal dish. I enjoyed thoroughly. And with that, I had like rice and some beans and a little bit of greens, etc. And that was my meal for the day. Oh, actually, after that, I had Greek yogurt with some frozen berries and a little bit of honey. So I carved up for the night training. Night training I didn't wrestle today. I'm not going to wrestle, probably maybe tomorrow or the day after. I might wrestle. I tweaked my neck a little bit, so I'm giving it a little break. I did some stability work, and then I did another session of Airdyne. I've been doing a lot of Airdyne lately, row machine, stability work. And tonight at the stability, I stood up on the ball, did some squats on the ball, stood up on the ball while I was watching the guys roll. Guys, I'm a big believer in stability work. Zuckerberg, I just saw Zuckerberg popped his ACL. How long has this guy been training? A year or two? He popped his ACL? That's ridiculous. His trainers don't know what they're doing. His trainers don't know what they are doing. The guy's a gazillionaire. Didn't hire a smart trainer. An ACL tear is a very serious injury. How long, guys, please let me know in the chat. How long has Zuckerberg been training? Please, somebody let me know. I don't follow this guy. But I saw a post. I was scrolling on YouTube and I saw a post of him in the cast. I'm like, oh my God. Guys, you know me. I'm all about the knees. How long is he? Less than a year. Oh my God. He popped his ACL in less than a year. Guys, I'm not going to go on a rant on ACLs, but his knees are shot. This is a massive injury. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't pop your ACL in less than a year. That's an absurdity. What can I say? People don't know anything about knees. Guys, check out Strong and Stable Knees. Make sure you pick it up. Use the promo code on the bottom of your screen, fall 50 off. Punch in that promo code. Okay, let's see. Somebody says I missed a super chat. Luke Tobin, first super chat on this stream. Thank you, Luke Tobin. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thoughts on Chael versus Ariel? I haven't seen what's going on with them. I heard they're arguing. I have no idea what they're arguing about. Basrutin, okay, did that one. Coach, please check out. Okay, did that one. Coach, I don't think Khabib can be considered the GOAT since he never moved up in weight to challenge himself, unlike GSP, and retired too early. That's from Stefan. You know what he didn't do? I wouldn't critique him for that. He wasn't in the golden era of lightweights. Like George was in the golden era of welterweights. There was him, Frank Trigg, BJ Penn. Like it was like these guys were losing, winning titles, taking it from each other, and then he just came in and dominated them all. Khabib didn't really have that. I mean, okay, he won the title against Iaquinta. He beat Conor McGregor, who never defended his title. He beat Gaethje, who never defended a title. He won an interim championship. Like, who did he beat? Remind me, who was the champion before Iaquinta? It was McGregor. And McGregor, if I remember, he relinquished the title. He didn't defend it. And then he was supposed to fight Ferguson, I believe. And then Ferguson again, always Ferguson and Khabib's fight never planned. I think they were booked 4 times. 2 times Khabib wasn't able to fight. 2 times Ferguson wasn't able to fight. The fight we never got to watch that we all wanted to see. And then Iaquinta steps in. I remember great fight. Iaquinta did amazing. Now that we look back how much Khabib kind of ran through the division. He never had that rivalry of a guy we believed they could beat Khabib. Guys, when I came out here and did the pre-fight analysis for Khabib versus Gaethje, I was like, Gaethje's going to get mauled, man. He's going to throw a kick. He's going to get taken down. It's going to be done. The McGregor fight scared me more, I would say. But then it was a blowout. Look, I'm not saying because he didn't have seesaw battles that he's not the best. No, it's just that he didn't have the Matt Hughes. He was missing that Matt Hughes. He was missing that Johnny Hendricks, a guy who was like just unbeatable, and then all of a sudden he loses. It's just like he didn't have that Carlos Condit, who was champion in WEC, comes to win the title, beats Diaz, who was Strikeforce champion. Like he just didn't have that like guy on a streak of wins. that was decorated. Like Jake Shields, for instance. Jake Shields won 2 Strikeforce divisions, comes in UFC, goes on a tear, fights George. Like these incredible statistics Jake Shield had at that time. It was just like maybe not enough title defenses, and he didn't have that rival, you know. I just think he's the greatest lightweight of all time. Khabib is, in my opinion, the greatest lightweight of all time. He can be the GOAT. It's very possible he is the GOAT. He retired undefeated, but doesn't mean because you're undefeated you're the best. Like, did you have somebody to push you at that level? And of course, 2 division weight would have sealed the deal. If he went up to welterweight and he won if he was double champ, it would have sealed the deal for me. Islam coach, when you serve Allah, you become His beloved, and by His power, that's Khabib. How can I start training from left and right shin fracture at 39? Right and left shin fracture after gaining 40 pounds and go back to fighting shape. That's from 50 caliber. Look, I'll tell you something. Don't run, okay? If you have shin fractures, don't run because you're overweight, okay? I suggest you do Aerodyne work. Aerodyne is very low impact. Do it every second day. Allow yourself 48 hours between workouts. Do friendly intervals. You know, do like 40 seconds on, 20 seconds, push it. You do a good warm-up, 40 seconds on, just kind of mellow, 20 seconds, push it. Do that for 10, 20 minutes. Do how you're comfortable. There's no eccentric load. There's no stress on your joints. You're going to slowly increase bone density. Of course, I would recommend Strong and Stable program. You're going to learn how to do very safe exercises with low impact. You're going to learn low impact plyometrics in that program. Rebuild your body. Once you're in shape, you can introduce running. Okay, once you're not overweight, guys, I don't recommend heavy weights to run too much. I recommend you guys use Aerodyne, rowing, and sometimes sprint and run. But if you're a light person, if you're like 170 and below, you can run on a regular basis. It's not a problem. Especially if you have proper running technique, guys. Proper running technique is super important. Are you part of GSP's new project? That's from Paul. GSP has like 20,000 new projects, so you're going to have to narrow it down. John Jones is clearly the GOAT. In my book, no, because he tested positive more than once. Guys, in cycling, if you test positive, they take away all your medals. Why in MMA, we just give you a slap on the wrist, we put you in a little timeout, we send you on a vacation, you come back and you defend your title like nothing ever happened. I think that's absurd. It's nonsense. When you get busted, it's like every other sport. You lose every title ever. Erase them from the Hall of Fame. Erase them from championship status. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Guys, I also do non-super chats. Okay, so it's really important. Also, I try to do non-super chats. I will do all super chats, but I also do non-super chats. Why do you act like there aren't dozens of UFC fighters juiced to the gills and passing all these tests? What does this testing even matter if it catches so few people? That's from Janet. I didn't say there's nobody on steroids. I didn't say that. I think there's plenty of people on steroids. Unfortunately, there are many people on steroids. He beat Anquita and 3 good fighters after that. That resume doesn't compare to GSP. That's from Alex. I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to say in a friendly, gentle way. Because don't forget, I'm a huge fan of Khabib. I don't want to sit here and criticize him. And I know a lot of people don't like it because, you know, a lot of people are huge fans of Khabib. I just don't think he beat these like killer names over and over again like George did. George just did it at a higher level. George had a greater, more impressive streak, I should say. Coach, does Tony Ferguson have a chance at a meaningful career from here on out? Or is he sadly the last to know that his time is up? That's from Flytrap. I'll tell you something. If he comes to training with me, I think I could turn his career around. If he comes and he trains with me, I believe I can help him turn his career around. However, not an easy thing to do. Do you think Jiri has a physical advantage over Pereira? That's from John. Yes. Yes. He's an athletic freak, Jiri. Dixie, please, no trolling. Coach, please check out Trent Horn, Muslim apologist. Trent Horn, Muslim apologist. Let me look him up. I'm familiar with Trent Horn. He's not a Muslim apologist. He's a Christian apologist. Trent Horn. I'm familiar with his work. He's an interesting guy. Very intelligent guy. Does Strickland beat DDP? That's a good one. I have to go over their fights. I haven't gone over their fights. Okay, guys. Now it's time to turn to a more serious subject. We're 1 hour in. I absolutely must touch on this subject. I want to discuss the Middle Eastern situation. I've gotten out so many messages. People asking me, when are you going to talk about it? When are you going to talk about it? I've already talked about it on 2 podcasts. I can't remember exactly which one. One of them was after Makhachev fought Volkanovski. I got questions about Palestine. If you guys want to hear my comments, check out that video. The watch party. I did a watch party for that event. And you can listen to my comments after the fight. I also did it in one of my other podcasts. I could be, if this podcast is 143, it could have been 142 or 141. Zip down. And I did about an hour or so. I have a question for the audience. Can somebody out there in the audience, I want you guys to tell me, what is the difference between the Palestinian government, Hamas, and the Israeli government of Israel? Can somebody tell me one difference between the two? I'm opening the floor. I'm asking a question. I'm not taking a position. I'm asking you all out there. Tell me one material difference or one ideological difference that they have. Please, I'm listening. Guys, the question is, what is the difference between these two governments? Ideologically or materialistic, or in terms of material? Please. Innocent civilians have no control. That's from Jung Jo. You're right. Both sides. That's a similarity. Both sides don't have, both civilians on both sides, they don't control their governments. Their governments are behaving on their own. They're not taking comments in question. They're acting unilaterally. They're not asking for people's opinion. The governments are just acting. Okay, but that's a similarity. I'm asking for a difference. Alex Steele says no difference. Okay, that's one position. Oppressed versus oppressor. That's from Sea Breeze. Now, Breeze, you didn't say which one's the oppressor, which one's the oppressed. Now, I think it's kind of obvious, yes, but I want you to say it. One is funded by the U.S. That's from Dylan Sai. Okay, one is funded by Iran. You're right, but they're both funded. Give me another difference. Is Hamas even a legitimate government? Question mark. That's from Ronnie Jackson. Well, I'll tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Hamas was put in by Israel. Israel admits to this. This is not a conspiracy theory. They wanted to undermine the PLO. The PLO was a secular leadership. Palestine had a secular leadership, and PLO wanted a two-state solution. Israel, Netanyahu admits to this. He doesn't want, Netanyahu, a right-winger, doesn't want a two-state solution. He promoted Hamas. He enabled Hamas. He backed Hamas. They backed Hamas so that Hamas could take over Palestine, radicalize the region, and then say, look, we can't have peace with these guys. These guys want, it's us or them. They're an us or them type peoples. They don't want apartheid state. Excuse me. They don't want a two-state solution. We live side by side in neighborly fashion. Israel has a huge hand in enabling Hamas, pushing Hamas into Gaza and letting them run amok because they wanted to go to the world and say, look, we can't deal with these guys. It's us or them. They're non-negotiable. Israel is non-negotiable. Hamas is non-negotiable. They both want the other one out. So they're similar in this sense. Is Hamas a legitimate government? Why wouldn't it be? They were voted in. Is Israel a legitimate government? They were brought in by the British. The Palestinians were governing themselves. It's a foreign government. It's an occupier. So both sides think the other guy is not a legitimate government. Who's to say who's who? It's you're pointing a finger, they're pointing the finger. Again, no difference. Somebody give me a material or ideological difference. Cowardice or cutting off water, food, and electricity. That's 1 foot out the door. Says, okay, he's saying, if you guys don't know, Israel limits the amount of water the Palestinians have, limits the food that they get. They limit certain items of food. This is before October 7th, okay? They don't allow them they only allow them a minimal amount of electricity, minimal amount of food, minimal amount of water. That is true. That is a significant difference. Palestine does not limit Israel in any way. They cannot. If they could, I'm sure they would. They'd want to bring Israel down to their knees. Israel limits water, food, electricity, aid. This is before October 7th. Medicines. They don't allow Palestinians to purify their foods. They don't allow Palestinians to protest. They did a march of return, a peaceful march of return within their own walls. The Palestinians were shot and killed. There is a material difference, yes. This is one of them. One side limits the food and water of the other. Now, you found one material difference. Yes. I personally think that Israel, one material difference is Israel created a breeding ground for radicalization. Obama just came out recently and he said life in Gaza, he's talking about before October 7th, what is unbearable. Listen carefully. Life in Gaza before October 7th is unbearable. It's a breeding ground for radicalization. This is Obama's message. He's 100% correct. If I put you behind the wall, limited your food and water, because I want you to leave, but you can't leave. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere. They're like, hey, we're going to bomb you. There's no, you have to evacuate. Evacuate where? Gaza is a giant prison. They blockade them by sea. They blockade them with literally a wall. And the Egyptian border is closed. And they bombed the Egyptian border. They bombed the Egyptian border. They told Palestinians, go south. They bombed the south. Now, we have a long talk here about details that aren't. We're going to make sense of it because there's so much nonsense on the internet. And if I say anything nonsensical, I want you guys to call me out on it. Please call me out on it. Okay. Now, my question is to you, what's the difference? One, Israel made life in Gaza unbearable, unlivable, and it created a breeding ground for radicalization. Let me tell you how I know this. Palestinians never had a significant conflict outside of this conflict. Before they were occupied, they've never had a significant conflict ever. They have never, I'm repeating, they have never had a significant conflict ever. They were not radicals. The Palestinians were not radicals, ever. They were a quiet, happy-go-lucky people. Maybe they had a little beef here and there. Nothing serious, nothing anywhere near to this magnitude. They were colonized by foreign people and then pushed out of their homes. Who threw the first punch? Let's be fair here. Let's be fair. Now, somebody give me an excuse. How could anybody say that, hey, we have a legitimate right to displace you, to push you out of your homes? I find it to be wrong. Can somebody tell me why it could be incorrect that I'm saying I think Israel threw this first punch? Because everybody's like, oh, you did this because Israel has a right to defend themselves. Because look what they did on October 7th. Then the Palestinians are going to be like, yeah, but before October 7th, you did this to us. And then Israel's going to be like, yeah, but before we did that, you did this. And before, it just goes on. Before that, you did this. And they're just going in regress. I'm asking you, who threw the first punch? Let's answer that question first. Who threw the first punch? Palestine or Israel? Somebody, please, put it in the comments. That's the question now. Who threw the first punch? Who started the whole cycle of violence? Who? Nakba 1948. For those of you who don't know what Nakba is when they pushed Palestinians out at gunpoint. Some people say, oh, it was voluntary. That's insane. That is completely insane comment. Easier to prove it's not. It was at gunpoint. We actually have footage of this. We have Israeli soldiers bragging about it. Old Israeli soldiers, documentaries on this. Bragging about how many they killed, how many they invaded, how they, all the crimes that they committed. The British are to blame, sure. The British sure are to blame, no doubt. Firas, please look at the British Mandate of Palestine. Andrew Knoll. Okay, I'll look that up. Israel did in 1948. Okay, here it is. Here's what I want to hear. Moya beats God promised them the land. That's the quotes. That's the big question. Okay, well, I'll tell you something. Ben Gurion, the founder of Israel, was an atheist. He's a known atheist. Doesn't believe in the Bible. He's a secularist. He just said, look, yeah, this is our land. We were here once upon a time. 2,000 years ago. We want it back. Okay, let me just make a comment on that. If we're going to use this logic, there's a lot of land owned to a lot of people. Okay, let me just tell you this. All men hail from Africa. Can I go now in Africa with a bunch of buddies with a lot of guns and displace people from their homes and say, look, all human, science tells me, forget your holy book. Science tells us we all hail from Africa. I'm just back here to take what my forefathers had. It's not possible to do that. Okay, and second of all, if we're going to talk religiously speaking, okay, if you read their text, they're supposed to wait for the Messiah to come and bring them to their land. They're not supposed to take it by worldly means. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but that's why when you see a Palestinian rally, there are so many Jews there. In Jerusalem, there are Jews. Look, Jews are allowed in Palestine. Jews always went to Palestine. Okay, always. They always went to pray in Palestine. However, it doesn't mean they have to own and control the state. They go, they have a pilgrimage. Some might live there, but it's not a Jewish state. It's only supposed to become a Jewish state once the Messiah delivers them. Now, of course, there's interpretation. Some rabbis, believe it or not, will tell you the Messiah could be a metaphor for the U.S. or England that brought us here. There's all sorts of interpretations, okay? But if you're going to go by the book, literally, you're supposed to wait for the Messiah. Now, okay, what if I don't agree with your religion? What if I think your book has been changed? I think it's been rewritten and you wrote that to kind of spice things up for yourself. I'm not saying that's my position, okay? The Quran tells Moses alayhi salam, take them into the promised land. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying if you're going to create a secular state and you're going to argue that, okay, fine. Let's say God promised them the land. Does that mean that they can't live with Arabs? If God, let's grant you that premise. Let's say the Muslims and Jews, we both believe that Jews belong in the promised land. Does that mean you should take somebody's house? Does that supersede the 10 commandments? Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder. No, it does not. It does not. In the 10 commandments, that's like the most important laws. It doesn't say thou shalt live in Israel. It doesn't say that. The 10 commandments supersede any laws. If two laws conflict, the 10 commandments supersede. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder. Yeah, listen, Muslims always brought Jews to Jerusalem. Guys, when the Jews were expelled by the Romans, who brought the Jews back? After 500 years, the Jews were expelled for 500 years. There was no Jews in Jerusalem. Who brought them back? The Muslims. The Muslims conquered Jerusalem. Omar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu. Omar conquered Jerusalem. What was his first order of business? Well, he was going to pray. It was prayer time. He went to pray. They told him, we're going to take you to the biggest church and we're going to let you pray in the church. And he refused to pray in the Christian church where they have the sepulcher. Why did he refuse? He said, if I pray in this church, a future Muslim leader is going to turn this place into a mosque. The first place I pray, they're going to want to commemorate it and build a mosque. He goes, I'm going to go a few paces this way and I'm going to pray in the open space. Where he prayed, they marked it. They built him a mosque. Today, that mosque still is there. The Mosque of Omar. He was showing his religious tolerance. He didn't want to expel the Christians. He says, look, this is a Christian church. This is a holy site for the Christians. We're not going to touch it. You have the right to practice your religion here in the Holy Land. And then he asked to be taken to the temple, the Jewish temple. They told him, we don't have the Jewish temple anymore. It's now a landfill. Omar bin Khattab, anhu, he asked them, take me to this landfill. When they took him to the landfill, he couldn't believe his eyes. He started removing the garbage with his own hands. Some narrations say he dropped on his knees to clear the garbage. He asked, why is it filled with garbage? The Christians said it was to punish and humiliate them. The Romans wanted to punish and humiliate the Jews. The Muslims and Christians cleaned out the temple, purified it from its garbage. Omar bin Khattab said he mandated 70 families to come back and start a Jewish colony in Israel today, in the Holy Land, Jerusalem. The Christians negotiated him down to 70 families. He was going to bring more. So to my Jewish friends listening to this, it's not true Muslims by and large want to eliminate you. I understand that there are some extremist groups, but Muslims have brought the Jews to the Holy Land on more than one occasion. I'm not going to go through all the instances, but on more than one occasion. Muslims have protected the rights of the Jews to come to the Holy Land and pray in their temple. There's a high degree of religious tolerance. This is bedrock history. There are no scholars that disagree with what I just said. There are no scholars. I challenge you to find me an Orientalist, a non-Muslim scholar, who says that this is not the case. Omar bin Khattab was tolerant of all other religions. He allowed them to practice their religion freely and in their own temple and in the Promised Land. Now, the Jews today should allow the same thing for the Muslims. Number one, Muslims are not pagan. We are not pagan. You know, Netanyahu said something so ignorant. Guys, on my way back from Morocco, I had like 48 hours to kill. I read the entire Torah all over again. The 5 books of Moses. I reread the whole thing just so I can like have it fresh in my memory. I studied it in university. I studied it in college, you guys, Vanier College. I studied it in Vanier. I studied it in university, and I'm telling you, Netanyahu said something so ignorant. He said, oh, we have to remember the Amalek, the tribe of Amalek. Now, in the, guys, you don't know the story of Moses, he has to fight Amalek. Amalek were pagans. We are not Amalek. We are monotheists. You cannot kill monotheists. You cannot fight monotheists. That's a subject for another day. I just found it incredibly ignorant, incredibly self-serving and ignorant to basically say, he was basically dog whistling, total genocide. Because that's what's ordered for the followers of Moses, to annihilate Amalek generationally. They're going to come back. They're going to resurface. You got to annihilate them again. He's saying that about Arabs. Monotheists. People who believe in Moses, believe in the 10 Commandments. It's insane. I think Netanyahu's using religion to further his bloodlust. He wants to be the guy who wiped out all Arab presence in Jerusalem, restored Jerusalem. Is going to be his legacy. It's going to be his name. It's going to be his... It's a massive ego trip for him. Okay, guys, back to my question. What is the difference between Hamas and the Israeli government? I'm not supposing anything. I'm just saying, okay, one difference we found is Israel limited water, food, electricity, tortured Palestinians because they have the power to do so. Yes, it's true. They have the power to do so. And in my opinion, and Obama's opinion, created unbearable circumstance that bred radicalization. Somebody disagree with me, please, and or show me another difference. If I can convert to Judaism tomorrow, do I own Palestine? That's from zero. Technically, you have a right of return. I don't know if they'll accept it. Maybe they don't accept converts. I would imagine they don't. There's probably a stipulation. I'd be surprised if they do. But I'm not aware of that. I can't mention. I can't say. UN offered a two-state solution in 1947. Israel accepted, Palestinians denied. Israel was invaded from all directions. Solution? ? Found your own state as no two-state solution could be agreed to survive. That's from Verico. I've heard this before, and people say it's totally untrue. The terms were unacceptable. They were highly favoring Israel. I haven't looked into it. You know what? I'm going to read up on it. I'm going to study it more closely. But I've heard so many commentators say, I listened to Noam Chomsky. I listened to so many debates. And they all say, oh, well, it was laughable. The two-state solution was a laughable. But actually, I've heard also some of them say, yes, we accept. PLO was accepting, but they would never go to the next step. It would never materialize to the next level of negotiations, etc. There's plenty of information to know about that. I'll look it up. I look forward to discussing it again. But I've heard on the Palestinian side that the terms were abhorrent. There's no right of return for people to go back. Don't forget, the Nakba was 750,000 Palestinians. Is it fair that they lose all their inheritance, all their property that they've had for generations? Is that fair? We can live side by side, guys. Newsflash. I wanted to give you guys a newsflash here. Muslims and Jews live together peacefully for hundreds and hundreds of years. We do it here in Quebec. We do it here. We do it all over the world. We do it. We're neighbors. I have so many Jewish friends. You think we're at each other's throat? We're fighting with each other? No. You bought that land, that belongs to you. I'm not going to come and remove you, or you're going to remove me. That's the law. Whoever bought the land owns the land. It's a displacement of people's homes. You got to ask yourself, look, if somebody took me out of my house, kicked me out, and then offered me a little piece of land somewhere far away where it's, and I got to start all over. I had an inheritance. I had I had acres and acres. I had all sorts of farmland. I had such a beautiful life. And now you're going to tell me I want to accept that? Would you accept it? I think 99% of you would say no. Okay, I also want to comment on, I heard Tim Kennedy on Joe Rogan. Okay, I know Tim Kennedy. I've hung out with him. We've trained together. I know the guy. I actually don't have his number, unfortunately. I looked at my phone. I was going to text him immediately after. Unfortunately, I don't have his number. I don't know why I don't have his number. I'm sure I've texted with him in the past. I just couldn't find his number. Let me double check now, but I don't understand how I don't have his number. Anyways, I wanted to text him because there's two things. One, I know he's Christian. I know deep down inside he's Christian. And that's why I think fuels his comments. I know he's very patriotic. He's very intelligent. He's quite informed on many topics. I've had long discussions with him. But he said something so wrong, so blatantly wrong. I have to correct him here. One thing is, I know he's Christian. I would love to ask him, what do you think, if Jesus was here with us now, what do you think he would say? Alayhi salam. What do you think he would say? Keep bombing? 99% of the people killed are civilians. Is that acceptable? Do you think Jesus would be like, yeah, keep bombing, go ahead, keep bombing. These Jewish people, let's keep sending the money. By the way, Jews don't accept Jesus. Muslims accept Jesus, guys. If you guys don't know, Muslims revere Jesus. Jesus is all over the Quran. He's super popular, super famous. We love him. We praise him. We love Jesus Christ. We believe in him. We believe in Virgin Mary. We believe in all his miracles. Even the Quran tells us he raised the dead. There is no Muslim in the world, there's not one that doesn't believe in Jesus. Now you're telling me that these Christian people are sympathizing with the bombing of people who believe in Jesus. That's one. That's a question I love to hear. Do you really think Jesus would be here and be like, hey, those monotheists that believe in me, bomb them? I highly doubt it. Okay, I highly doubt this would be the case. Secondly, for Christians out there listening to this, there are explicit quotes of Jesus Christ in the gospel saying, anything you do to the children, you do to me. Out of the 10,000 killed, almost half are children. These are unacceptable genocidal figures. There is a genocide going on. Make no mistake about it. This is the genocide. It's a racist genocide. It's an apartheid racist genocide. Guys, if it was flipped, if it was Arabs doing this to Jews, if it was Muslims doing this to Jews, I would come here on this mic and say the same thing. It's unacceptable. It's a genocide. And it's, I don't know. It was unacceptable. I would give you the same reprimand. Where was I? Tim Kennedy's comments. He said, look, if you take out Hamas, there's going to be peace. He's such an intelligent guy, but he said something so ignorant. Look, I don't care how smart you are. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything, and we all make mistakes, but this is a huge blunder. I would love to ask Tim Kennedy, why is there so much violence in the West Bank? Guys, if you don't know, there's Gaza and the West Bank, both Palestinian, both controlled by Israel. The West Bank is a bloodbath. They shoot more Palestinians. Well, this last year, before October 7th, they shot a record number and imprisoned a record number of Palestinians. There is no Hamas in the West Bank. There is no Hamas. They have secular leaders in Palestine. There is no Hamas. How come there's not peace? Palestinians are being murdered, imprisoned, tortured, removed from homes, non-stop settlers. Settlers are just basically people who come in, knock on your door, kick you out of your house, literally rip you out of your house and take your home. They demolish your home with a bulldozer and they build a new Jewish home. They displace you from lands that belong to you. They're illegal internationally. It's all illegal, but nobody does anything about it. The U.S. protects Israel. Nobody can harm Israel. Nobody can. Even the media protects Israel. If you criticize Israel in the media, they censor you, they delete you, they downvote you. The media is pro-Israel. You're not getting a fair. The people, by and large, around the world are pro-Palestine. By and large, the people around the world are pro-Palestine. The media, the bigwigs, the elite are pro-Israel. It's crazy, isn't it? Now, I just want to stay on the Tim Kennedy. We'll talk about that topic probably after. But he said something so ignorant. If there was no Hamas, there'll be peace. He's completely wrong. Hamas has only been in power for like 15 years. They've only existed for about 30. This problem is almost 100 years old. This is 75 years of occupation, torture, conflict. Hamas is the new kid on the block. Hamas is the new kid on the block. They haven't been here that long. If what happened in Palestine happened in the U.S., guys, I know Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy, imagine a U.S. state was invaded, or imagine Russia brought up peoples, displaced the people, and said, we're going to take this part of the U.S., we're going to bring these people here, and we're going to move Tim Kennedy and his family out of this house. Let me tell you what Tim Kennedy would do. And I don't even need to ask him. I know Tim Kennedy. I know exactly what he'll do. He would do jihad times 1,000. He would go full jihad, 0 to 60, in less than 0.1 seconds, times 1,000. He would go Hamas full-blown 1,000 infinity. That's what he would do. Something would click in his mind. He would gun up. He would load up all his guns. He'd be like, I'm taking back my land, every last inch of it, no negotiation. He would sound like a group dressed as black and green that you all know. He would go full out berserker. He wouldn't even negotiate 1 square inch of his property. So why would he critique? Now, look, I condemn what happened on October 7th. I condemn it. If they fought just the oppressors, the soldiers, I wouldn't condemn it. I would say, look, they're fighting for their freedom. But killing innocent civilians, that's terrorism. That's why I'm asking. I think both sides are terrorists. I think Hamas, the ones who killed innocent babies, are terrorists. Because the thing is, the government's denying it. But the thing is, we have footage. They're saying, oh, those are just rogue soldiers, Hamas soldiers that went rogue. Well, punish them. If you're an honest government, if Hamas really didn't want to attack civilians, if it's true, identify those men. It's all on the GoPro. Bring them to justice and show the world they can't get away with this injustice. Now, Israel, the government, knows that there's 500 innocent civilians, and they claim, oh, there's one Hamas guy. They literally said that. They bombed and killed hundreds of innocent civilians, claiming that there was one Hamas agent. So we killed him. We think we got him. But Wolf Blitzer was like, yeah, but you killed like 300 people. Yeah, but that's the cost of war. The ambassador saying, Israeli ambassador, yep, we had to kill him. Sorry. They're hiding. They're embedded. They're embedded behind human shields. We had no choice. Wolf Blitzer was like, Wolf Blitzer is the most patriotic human being there is on the news. And he was shocked. He's like, what? To kill one guy, you bombed a refugee camp? A refugee camp where people go to be safe? Yeah, well, sorry, man. I mean, it's a sad thing, but we had to kill him. Now, if Hamas was hiding amongst 500 Israeli citizens, innocent civilians, would they bomb it? The answer is a hard no. Answer is a hard no. Imagine the roles were reversed. Imagine Hamas kills an Israeli soldier with a bomb, but he was in the midst of 500 innocent Israeli civilians. We'd all be like, hey, that's a terrorism. That's terrorism, man. You're killing innocent civilians. Terrorism, the way I define it, is purposely killing innocent civilians. Putting innocent civilians and also putting innocent civilians at great risk of danger. We would all call it terrorism. But when Israel does it, no, you can't call it terrorism because they'll erase you from the internet. The rich don't want to be called terrorists. You have to all play by the rules, but we'll break international law. It's a lie. Israel committed countless war crimes, many of them killing innocent civilians, and that's mandated, that's sanctioned by the state. It's not some rogue soldier. It's not a rogue soldier. Literally, the president of Israel said, listen to what he said. Call me a liar. He said, we have to stop this talk about innocent civilians in Palestine. There are no innocent civilians. They could have risen up. They could have risen up against Hamas and done a coup. You put Hamas in power. Israel put Hamas in power, and Hamas is too powerful for people to come up with a coup. Hamas controls the region. They have all the guns. They have all the food. They have all the water. They have access to everything. If you try to rise up against Hamas, it's your head. It's a nonsensical, ridiculous claim to make. It's absolutely unrealistic. It's absolutely absurd. And the man is the president of Israel. It's an absurdity. It's not impossible, but it's an absurdity. It's very difficult to rise up. And let me ask you this question, Mr. President of Israel. Let me ask you a direct question. What about the children? Should they have risen up against Hamas? You're killing thousands of children and the world, all of you out there watching. If you're not complaining about it, if you're not quoting, if you're not messaging, I find it's wrong. The whole world should object, whether they're innocent Israeli or whether they're innocent Arabs or Muslims or Christians or atheists. Innocent civilians should not be harmed ever. It's disgusting. Somebody sitting around pushing buttons, killing innocent civilians. 99% of the deaths are innocent civilians. This is unacceptable. Nobody would ever accept this. And it's a lie to say, oh, that's the cost of war. Nobody has done this. Name me. Okay, there has. I can't say the name. If I say the name, this is going to offend a lot of people. There is a group that did this. There is a group. They didn't care about innocent civilians. They didn't believe there was innocent civilians. They were killing en masse. Now, I know Hamas probably would do that. Okay, Hamas said, no, we don't kill innocent civilians against a religion. But then you watch their GoPro, they did it. I saw it with my own eyes. They were shooting aimlessly at people hiding in those toilet cubicles. Now, that could have been a rogue guy. He broke his chain of command, or maybe it was, some of them were saying that, oh, Palestinians were running up on them because they saw the gate open and they weren't even with Hamas. We saw plenty of violence. Okay, the reports are going to come out. I think they committed atrocious acts. I think there's evidence enough, but again, I want to see perfect evidence. But still, if it is the case and Hamas is honest, which I don't think they are, bring those people to justice. Find those guys who committed those crimes. They're with you in under the tunnels. Bring them in front of a jury and punish them. And we know what that punishment is. Murdering an innocent person in Islam, we all know what the punishment is. My point is that Tim Kennedy said something incredibly ignorant, even though he's an intelligent person. This conflict is older than Hamas. Hamas is a reaction to nearly 100 years of torture, humiliation, and oppression. I'm going to tell you guys now the story of Nat Turner. Nat Turner was a slave. Guys, how do we get out of this situation? How do we get out of this situation? It seems so impossible, but I'm here to tell you it's not. If we look in history, guys, you know I love history. I study history all the time. I absolutely love history. There were conflicts. They were very similar. And today, those two groups live in peace, relative peace. And we don't think the way of old. We don't think the way we used to think. Let me tell you the story of Nat Turner. Nat Turner was a slave. He was owned by a white man, and he was property of a white family. Nat Turner knew how to read. He would read the Bible. He would have prayer groups, and him and his fellow black slaves would preach to one another. And Nat Turner eventually got very, very religious and started to believe he was a prophet of God, and he was going to lead his people to freedom. What did Nat Turner do? Now, I don't have to tell you guys how horrific the slave trade was. People were murdered, killed. Women were taken as comfort girls. They had no rights. Okay? Slavery was horrendous. Admittedly so. Everybody admits it. There's nobody who says, hey, slavery wasn't that bad. There's nobody. All historians unanimously say this transatlantic slave trade was horrific. Nat Turner, one day, when his masters were sleeping, took a posse and murdered his masters. He even killed the baby. The baby was in the crib. He went and he gutted it. Why? He wanted to scare white owners and show them, look, what you've done to us is going to end. This is it. This is the end. We're angry all these years. What was he doing? All the years they tortured him. All the years that they whipped him. All the years that they raped his women. All the years that they subjugated him, humiliated him, saw him as less human than them. Manifested. Now, was it wrong? Yes. To kill the child, I think was wrong. To kill his slave master, I don't think was wrong. Personally, if you ask me, I don't think so. You enslaved me, man. I have the right to fight for my freedoms. He killed a wife. He killed the kids. That I think is too far. I wouldn't have done that. Okay, but I think he's within his rights to fight for his freedoms. We have all our forefathers fought for their freedoms. Now, there was a slave uprising. It was crushed. Nat Turner was found months later hiding in the woods. He couldn't survive in the woods. They ended up catching him, hanging him, killing him. And then they passed a law. You know what law they passed? Some Americans were calling for, no, we have to give them rights, emancipate them. We need to make them live under the law as human beings. We got to slowly give them more and more freedoms. That was one opinion. The other opinion was, no, we got to subjugate them further, police them further, and now we're going to make it illegal. And this is what they did. They ended up voting, making it illegal to teach blacks to read. Instead of humanizing them, let's subjugate them even further. This is what the resolve was. After the Nat Turner event, white America decided that it's now illegal to teach black people to read. The problem is that we taught them to read and they started having hope and they started communicating with one another. They started getting organized. We're going to kill our black slaves. We're going to foster new black slaves. We're going to raise new black slaves that don't read. And we will never teach them to read. That is the most absurd strategy in history. It's a matter of time before there's another uprising. It's a matter of time before whoever's in power goes through a struggle, collapses, and a new group emerges. This is the story of history. Let me tell you guys something about the Black Plague. Before the Black Plague, the church was in power. The Black Plague came and annihilated Europe, crushed the church. Guys, it wasn't a question of military might. You can't fight the Black Plague with military power. The church lost its grip. Then you had a surplus, or a surge of science. Why? The church can't reprimand me. I can think scientifically now. I can start thinking logically. I can start reading all these philosophy books. I can start disagreeing with the Bible publicly. Because why? They lost all their power. They're not as powerful as they used to be. Half the clergy is dead. The clergy was so powerful, they could suppress the entirety of Europe. And then all of a sudden, they got a curveball thrown at them, and they lost that power, and a new group emerged. Guys, let me tell you something. That's the story of history. Israel is putting itself in a position where they have to maintain military supremacy forever. They're handing down a conflict because now they're saying they want to occupy the Gaza state indefinitely. Their plan is to, let me quote you, the Israeli government, flatten Gaza. The U.S. government, one governor in the U.S. government said, we're going to turn it into a parking lot. This is a U.S. governor. Their idea is, let's subjugate them even more. I'm telling you, that's going to create more radicalization. Even if you killed every single Palestinian in Gaza. Astaghfirullah. The ideology and the history will never die. There's going to be a new group, and they're going to be angry. And they're going to come knock on your door. And the second you slip just the tiniest bit, they're going to have every justification in the world to jump down your throat. And not just your throat, your generation's throat. Don't do this to the generations after you. Think about Germany. Germany, during World War II, was the number one most militarily advanced society in the world, both scientifically and militarily. What happened to them? They got a curveball. They were running out of oil. They had to go against their allies. They had to get Russian oil in the winter where they were desperate for it. The Russian winter hit them in a way they never expected. They got caught with their pants down. What happened then? Hitler also, another curveball. Hitler got addicted to a drug, an experimental drug called methamphetamine. He got addicted to a drug. It rattled him. You know that Hitler fired his medical practitioner, his medical doctor, just a few days before he killed himself. Just like maybe 6-7 days before. Because he realized that this guy's drugging him, is making him lose his bearings. Hitler was delusional at the end. He's like, hey, you've turned me into a drug addict. Because here's another curveball that people don't know about history. Hitler couldn't get his drugs anymore. His medical practitioners, because they were being bombarded, they were being their supply chains were being cut, they couldn't get the ingredients for methamphetamine. So he started to sober up. He started to go into withdrawal during the war. There's so much to know about exactly what happened to him in his last days, but one of them is that his medical practitioner could not get him his drugs. Hitler started to become mad with withdrawal and started to realize he's been losing his mind. It's quite an interesting story, actually. He didn't know about methamphetamine had a long-term side effect. He didn't know that it was going to hook him, and this guy was controlling him. His medical practitioner was controlling him and manipulating him and controlling his doses. These are things that military might cannot always foresee or avoid. And it brought down, it's one of the major factors that brought down Germany. Don't forget, Hitler wanted to make every decision. He would barely sleep. He wanted to be there for every decision. He was a control freak. You cannot maintain military superiority forever. It's impossible. If I was Israel, I would want to do everything to better my relationship with everybody slowly. That's how we got rid of slavery eventually, slowly. The relationships between blacks and whites. Yes, there was a bloody war. I'm not ignorant to that. But still, the relationship between blacks and whites slowly got better over the years. And it still needs work. It's not perfect, but it's far better. It's far better. And I think in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it's going to be even better and better. Palestine and Israelis can do the same. We need to humanize Palestinians, not demonize them. Not call them human animals. The Israeli government is literally addressing Palestinians as human animals. If they're human animals, I'm a human animal. If they are human animals, I am a human animal. It's Nazi-like propaganda to dehumanize. That's what they used to say about the Jews. They're subhuman, which is completely untrue. There are no subhuman races. Israeli government is lying. To call them human animals is an absurdity. Let me tell you a little story about a group called the Zealots. The Zealots were a Jewish group living under the boot of the Roman Empire. They were subjugated, they were tortured, they were crucified, they were punished. They were crucified tens of thousands at a time. It's brutal. How the Romans mistreated the Jews was horrendous. What do you think happened to Jerusalem, to the Jews? They became radicals. Look them up. There were two radical groups, one being the Zealots, the other one I'm forgetting their name. Let me look it up real quick. I'm forgetting their name. They were named after a dagger. I'm forgetting, but I can't look it up right now. It's going to take too long. The Zealots, when we say somebody's a zealot, what do you think that name comes from? It comes from a particular group. The Zealots would kill anybody from the Jewish side who would negotiate with Romans. If anybody tries any diplomatic negotiations with the Roman Empire, that was considered treason, and treason is punished by death. They were as radical as Hamas. They used ambush. They used violence. They murdered. They killed. They fought the Romans tooth and nail and to their demise. By the way, they ended up getting cornered by Rome. They hid in Masada Hill. Eventually, they all committed suicide. The Zealots, the Jewish Zealots, instead of being captured by Romans, because eventually the game was up, they were basically under siege. They said, look, we're going to kill ourselves because we don't want to be put on the cross. The cross is a far more devastating and torturous death. And the penalty for treason, the penalty for fighting Rome is crucifixion. So 5,000 Zealot Jews ended up killing themselves. Now, why were they radicalized? Because they're Jewish? No, it has nothing to do with Judaism. If I put you in a corner, I don't care what walk of life you are. If I put you in a corner, starve you, poke you with a stick, injure your loved ones, torture you, spit on you, degrade you, and then you lash out at me in the most violent ways, that's just called human nature. Every human being has a breaking point. Guys, people just don't understand what's happening in the Gaza Strip. Life is unbearable. They had a march of return within their own walls, the Palestinians, within their own walls. They weren't shooting guns. They were shot by the IDF. They were killed because they were protesting for their human rights, the right to own property, have food, water, farm their own resources, cultivate their own resources. Noam Chomsky says, the Palestinians, even within the Gaza Strip, they have resources, but they're not allowed access to them. Human beings, the entire world has to come together and bring Israel to their senses. Guys, I'm taking comments and questions now. Coach, you should go to bed. You're right. I should go to bed. I'm just going to finish off with a couple of comments and questions, and then that's going to be it. I try to explain this shit to people on a daily basis and no one gets it. Thank you, sir. That's some seek and destroy. Well, I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me a material difference between the Israeli government and the Palestinian government. So far, all I've seen is one side is torturing the other. They're both are violent. They're both calling for the annihilation of the other. They're both calling for the annihilation of the other. They attacked journalist's funeral. They keep poking the bear. That's from Gambit. Another Israeli crime. There was a Jewish journalist who wrote an article that was showing the crimes of Israel. She was killed. And then at her funeral, they still attacked her. They attacked the people trying to peacefully bury her and give their condolences. They attacked and humiliated her, the people at her funeral. I know God won't leave us, but what happens when God leaves us, Coach? God will never leave a human being. If a human being reaches out to God, Allah, He will reach back out. Ben Gurion Canal Project is the reason for the wipeout of Gaza. I have to look up the Canal Project. I'm not familiar with that. Guys, Ben Gurion, guys, let me tell you something about him. How do you think he established the state? He established the state. First of all, he was considered a terrorist at one point. Britain, the Allies considered him a terrorist. They blew up the King David Hotel. They had many attacks, many explosions, suicide bombings, etc. This was the foundation of the Israeli state. He was once upon a time referred to as a terrorist. And now he's the founder of the Israeli state. Look that up. Please do look it up. Do you think you convinced Tim Kennedy to be on your side? That's from Angelo Martinez. Yes, absolutely. I think, look, I love Tim Kennedy, but I'll tell you something. Like, there's so many things I like about him, but after he said that, like, I keep my distance from him. But I would love to have a talk with him. I think he's completely head over heels in love with the USA. Like, he's got an American flag in his brain. But he has to learn to see that he's both Christian and American. There's a conflict here. There is a conflict. There is a conflict. I'm sorry to tell you guys, there is a conflict. Now, can you be both? Yeah, you can be both, but they're not congruent perfectly. They are not. I'm sorry to tell you. They are not. First of all, Jesus was a Jew. There are blasphemy laws in Judaism. You don't have the right, in Judaism, you don't have the right to say anything you want. There's blasphemy laws. You think Jesus wouldn't, he wouldn't, he wouldn't uphold the blasphemy laws. He wouldn't say, oh, freedom of speech for everybody. He wouldn't say that. Like, there are other problems, okay, between Christianity and Judaism, and American way of life, the American Constitution. Now, you can reconcile them in certain ways. You can make certain, like, there's room for flexibility. I don't want to get in that topic, okay? I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but there are going to be on some certain instances where you cannot apply both. Okay, it'll be an interesting thing to explore, I think, one day, but not today. And I think he has no leg to stand on by saying that, oh, if Hamas wasn't there, if we magically took them out, there would be peace tomorrow. That's the biggest lie. That is the biggest lie. If you take out Hamas tomorrow and you still cut our water, cut our food, cut our electricity, bully our children, 700 Palestinian children a year are put in prison in military court. Military court. Imagine you're waiting for your son to come home from school and you find out he's been arrested. 99% of court cases, the Palestinians get convicted. Let that sit into your mind for a second. It's 99.7% of court cases always go against Palestinians. So if I want to complain, hey, no, this soldier was rough with my son and my son flipped him off, or my son threw a rock and he beat him up, and hey, he's bullying my son every day. You know, the settlers come and they bully the Palestinians. They got all the guns. They got all the... Guys, if you guys don't know this, the settlers are encouraged to bully the Palestinians. They want the Palestinians to leave. The Palestinians have no rights. No rights. If you go to a checkpoint, an officer can just refuse you for no reason. They don't have to give you a reason. You want to go to school, you have to go to maybe through 2 or 3 checkpoints. He could just refuse you today. Today, we're not letting anybody come in. We're just refusing. Well, I'll have a test. Too bad, so sad. We have to stop the bullying. We have to stop the dehumanization. Guys, you know why I don't rise up against the queen? I'm a subject of the queen. Guys, when I look at my money, there's a queen on the money. If I go to court, I'm subject to the crown. I have a court case. I'm subject to the crown. It's me versus the crown. Why am I not uprising against the crown? Because I can drink as much as I want. I have as much food as I want. I have as much opportunity as I want. I can open up an MMA gym. I can open up a business. They don't treat me any differently than any human being. Why would I rise up? I don't care if it's under this rule. That's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is that they allow my kids to go to school. They won't punish them. They won't torture them. They won't spit on them. If that was the case, there's going to be an uprising. Yeah, there's going to be a resistance. Of course there is. I'm not going to let you torment us. I think as a human being, we all know the answer. It's unlivable. There's only one place in the world. There's North Korea and there's Israel, where people are literally put behind the wall. The biggest open air prison in the world. And they put them on the diet. They say, oh, we put them on a diet. We give them so little food that they don't starve to death because it looks bad. What the things the Israeli state has said, come out publicly said. Even talking about using a nuclear weapon. That's the most stupid, idiotic, imbecilic. This is a government, U.S. Israeli government. He's been reprimanded. He will be poisoning his own territories. An imbecilic thing to say. I don't even want to talk about it. Aboriginals to North America, aka copper-colored tribes, not European or African. Well, of course, the natives, the First Nation in our countries, America and Canada, guys, have been tortured. Similar to what happened to Palestinians. Absolutely similar. I think our countries need to make reparations, need to make things right. Our country, Canada, has done some horrible things. Mass graves, mass killing. The Catholic Church has done unbearable, unspeakable things. And what did the natives do when they found mass graves? Guys, last year they found mass graves. The natives were burning down churches. Are they terrorists? Look, it's wrong to burn down a church. I'm not telling you it's okay to burn. I'm just saying I understand the psychological torment. I understand the desire to rebel. It's wrong to go and burn a church. I don't think you should do that. But Canada needs to make things right. And they can never make things right. I think it can never be done right. But they have to make efforts to try to make things right. What happened to the First Nations was abhorrent. Gambit. Verico, one is an occupied entity, the other is occupied. Occupiers oppress people, don't wish well to the occupier. Okay, look, it makes total sense. If I'm the occupier and you're being occupied, I'm the suppressor. I'm oppressing you. That's true. However, there are ways to occupy people. Guys, there's been so many people occupied throughout history, and they were not tortured like this. I'm talking about the medieval period. I'm talking about the ancient times. People weren't tortured like this. Cyrus the Great didn't do this. Like, okay, maybe in certain circumstances, but the Persians, the Muslims, in many cases were not oppressive. They were tolerant. Israel in our modern day, and back in the day, guys, history was kill or be killed. Now today, it's like we live in the most peaceful era in history. Don't forget that. We live in the most peaceful era in history, and Israel is literally running the world's largest open-air prison. It's absurd. They have dehumanized Palestinians. It's a racist apartheid regime. I was watching a documentary on Palestine once, and I remember there was a Swedish guy or like a European. He was like, I can walk on the sidewalk. They're like, yes. But the Palestinian, can he walk on the sidewalk? They're like, no, he can't go on the sidewalk. In Jerusalem, they have Palestinians that live in Jerusalem with the Jews, okay? They have about, I forget how many million. They have I think 20% of their population. But they're not allowed to use the same sidewalk and certain roads as the Israelis. They're not allowed. They have to go through the back routes, the long way around. They're not allowed to go in certain stores. Their homes are marked with blood, so we know that's a Palestinian home. That way you could spit on him, throw your garbage, you could bully him, you could torture him any which way. It's so horrendous what they do to the Palestinians. And the European guy was asking the IDF soldiers, he's like, wait a second, I don't get it. I can walk on the sidewalk. I'm a tourist, and he's born here, and he can't walk on the sidewalk. They're like, no, you can walk, and the Arab can't. That's racism. The guy's unarmed. He's just a regular Joe. He's like, yeah, this is my father's land. We used to live here and there. I want to go visit my family on their side. I'm not allowed. They don't let me cross. They're breeding hate. And you can kill every last member of Hamas. The story is going to be told to the next generation and the generation after that and the generation after that and the generation after that. How long do you think military supremacy will last? Let me tell you another fact. The Muslim population is on a rapid growth. The Muslims, we are growing in numbers. In 40 years, we're going to be 1 out of every 3 people. And we are rapidly growing in science and technology. And thankfully, the Muslims used to be incredibly academic. We're returning back to an Enlightenment age. The Muslims are coming back into an Enlightenment age. Alhamdulillah. With the new wave of information coming in and out, people are coming back to the new wave of information. Anything you say, we verify it. The Muslims used to be incredibly intellectual. They got dominated by the Genghis Khan family. They fell into a little bit of a dark period, and now they're back on the rise. Actually, it's more than a little bit of a dark period, but academia is back. The first uprising was with rocks. Now it's with rockets. The next one, what's it going to be with? It's going to be with more sophisticated weapons. Jordan, Iran, Lebanon. Lebanon now they have higher missiles. Excuse me. The Intifada now is the next one is missiles. What's next? What's after that, guys? What are we going to do? What level is this going to? Where's this going to end? No country has ever been able to maintain military supremacy forever. The U.S. won't be able to do it. China won't be able to do it, and definitely not Israel. It won't happen. Sooner or later, you got to learn to live with your neighbor. Okay, guys, I'm going to... No religion. That's from Procházka. That's another horrible claim. The most violent century in mankind was a secular war. World War II was all secular, guys. Darwin wrote Natural Selection. His book on natural selection. Hitler was inspired by the works of Darwin. It's like kill or be killed, man. It's all about the survival of the fittest. Stalin, Hitler, they all did that. Mao, they all did it in the name of secularism. You have plenty of psychopath killers. It's not religion that's violent. It's man that's violent. Human beings are violent despite religion. Let me tell you what the Torah. You think the Jews are doing this because of the Torah? I disagree. You know what the Torah says? I reread it recently, and I remember the story. Abraham alayhi salam, he tells God tells him, look, I'm going to go and destroy this town called Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm going to go and see, witness. God sends his angels and his... I don't want to go on a sidetrack, but it says God came to Abraham as 3 men. What does that mean? Well, the term God is flexible. Let's not talk about it. He sent him 3 messengers, and these messengers are going to go see Sodom and Gomorrah, and they're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham prays to God, and he says to God, but you're not going to destroy it if you see 50 good people. You know, if there's 50 good people, you're not going to destroy it. Well, God, you're the most just, you're the most fair. And God says, if I find 50, I won't destroy it. And then Abraham tells him, what if you find 40? Will you destroy it then? And then God, being merciful, tells him, okay, I won't destroy it if there's 40. And Abraham alayhi salam, he works him all the way down to 10. And then when God goes, he only finds 1 righteous man and his family. So they're less than 10. It's like, okay, I'm not going to destroy it. I'm going to let him leave. Look what he does with the innocent civilians. And the Torah says the innocent civilians have to leave. Then they destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Because Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom refused to change their ways, etc. They were vile people, they were pagans, etc. Okay, we're going to bomb them. Not bomb them, but destroy them. The moral of the story was, if there's an innocent person, extract them. Don't kill. The innocents take precedence. You could interpret the Torah that way. Why interpret it in a way where it's Amalek? All of a sudden, these Arabs are Amalek. Who told you they're Amalek? We're not polytheists. We're monotheists. We're like you. We believe in the same books as you. We believe in the same ideas as you. They're using religion to fit their own purpose. Religion is not inherently evil. If so, if you want to go by the numbers, atheism has higher death rate. Higher. You think Mao cared if people were dying and starving and being killed? He didn't care. Well, there's no afterlife. There's no sin. There's no such thing as sin. It's nonsense to say that. I'd love to debate anybody on this topic. I'd love to go in depth on this topic. I would love an atheist to show me how morality can exist. There's never been a single atheist who can do it. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is, like it, love your neighbor as yourself. That's from Daniel Gretsch. He's quoting the Bible. Now listen, some Jews are going to be like, yeah, but that's referring to our brethren. There's different interpretations, but we are their brethren. We are their brethren. We come from Abraham as well. We take our lineage to Ishmael alayhi salam, which is the brother of Isaac. The Jews come from Isaac. We come from Ishmael alayhi salam. We are brothers, and we are monotheists. We're brothers in faith. Listen, Jews and Muslims, we've lived together for a long, long time in peace. And Maimonides, guys, the second Moses, he says, don't antagonize Muslims. We can live together. Both Muslims and Jews, we believe we can live together. Our great scholars preach that we can live together. Okay, guys, it is 2 hours in. I'm going to do 1 or 2 left, and then we're going to wrap it up. What do you think of Hikmah history? What's Hikmah history? Let me look that up real quick. I'm going to have to look that up. I'm not familiar with it. I'm going to save a video here to make sure I do look it up. Okay, I'm going to save to watch later so I don't forget. Okay, guys. Jews have been outside the land longer than they've inhabited it. That's from Gould. And also, don't forget, they also, like if you read the Torah, Abraham comes from Iraq and his children are promised. So there were foreigners to the land. So why can't we say, well, we used to live there before, because Palestinians were there before. And then they converted to monotheism, and they married with Jews. They were Jews. The Palestinians today are Jews that converted to Islam. Many of them. We're all kind of the same people. It's all how you interpret the story. But I'll tell you this, you're right. They've been out of the land longer than they've been in the land. But the thing is, Muslims, we want Jews in Israel. We believe the Messiah came. So we're happy to have Jews in Israel. Some Muslims tell me, no, coach, they sin. So if you read the books carefully, they sin, so they're out. Guys, why? Answer me this. A question to all Muslims out there. Why did Omar ibn Khattab bring them back? Why did he bring them back to Israel, to Jerusalem? Why did Salahuddin keep Israeli Jews in Jerusalem? Why did the Ottoman Empire rescue Jews from the Spanish Inquisition? The Ottoman Empire sent their own ships. The Jews didn't even have to make it their own way. They sent them ships to bring them out of the Inquisition. They were being persecuted by Christians. They brought them out to bring them where? In the Holy Land. Why? Somebody argue. No, actually, I don't recommend you argue against the actions of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. He brought the Jews back to Jerusalem. He knows what he's doing. He heard the Quran firsthand. He's a primary source material himself. He heard the Quran. He lived the Quran. He was there when it was being recited. He understands Islam better than any of us. And these were his actions. So it's not true that we want to expel them. Now, that when they say dismantle the state, what does that mean? Do you want to become the state? You want to dismantle the state. If they say, I hope they're not saying eradicate, because that would just make you genocidal. It's not correct. This is incorrect. We don't eradicate any peoples. I think you and Jordan Peterson would have some really good conversations. That's from Galactus. I would invite it. Tweet him. Guys, I'm banned from Twitter. Let me tell you guys something. All sorts of shitty characters have Twitter accounts. Why? Why can't the coach be on Twitter? Somebody please explain it to me. I don't understand. I have no understanding whatsoever. Somebody go check my feed. Tell me what I said or did to offend these great sharks in the sky. These men from Twitter. Now X. I would love an audience with Jordan Peterson. If you guys tweet him, message him, and get him to have a discussion with me, I will be more than happy, because his give him hell comment deserves hell. I will give him hell. Guys, you get me on a podcast with this man, and you will hear me give him hell. A so-called Christian instigating violence, 10,000 dead, nearly half of whom are children. Over 99%, the percentage is like 99.5%, are innocent civilians. Guys, I hate to leave it on a somber note, but that's the reality of the day we live in, the world we live in today. I was messaged so often, when are you going to talk about Palestine? Guys, this is the third or fourth time I talk about Palestine. Next time we're going to talk about fitness, training, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, and maybe a little bit of what's going on in case there's a major development. But I will tell you all that I hope you're all actively condemning the killings on both sides. It's not hard to condemn the actions of October 7th. I condemn it wholeheartedly, but I also condemn. I'm consistent. I also condemned all the killing of the innocent civilians. Take Hamas, take the Israeli government, put them in the ring, for God's sakes. Why don't they meet man to man? How about we meet man to man? Give them you want to do swords? You have bloodlust? You guys want to kill one another? Let's take this group of men. Let's put them in a ring together. Give them whatever weaponry they agree on. Let them settle it man to man. Whatever happened to looking your enemy in the eye? No, I'm going to push a button, or I'm going to fight you from a distance, or I'm going to call for extra resources. Well, they all do it. They both do it. Guys, today we couldn't find a single material difference other than one side blockades, starves, tortures, oppresses. I asked you guys, I asked the chat, find me one material or ideological difference. Their ideologies are extremely similar. Every time Hamas calls for the death of a Israeli, you remember Israel's calling for the death of Gazans, and vice versa. Don't forget the president of Israel said, we have to stop saying there's innocent civilians. The ambassador of Israel said, the Israeli ambassador in England said, there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It's either because she thinks they're not human, or she thinks they deserve to suffer. It's one of the two. So these children deserve to suffer. The world has become insane. Guys, do not let what happened to the generation in the 1920s, don't let it happen to this generation. Mark my words, this can trigger World War III, and believe me, violence can be at your doorstep tomorrow. We can't let it escalate to this. Tomorrow, God forbid, there's an attack here and there. People will not let this slide. It needs to end. These two groups need to learn to live in peace. They've done it before. We can do it again. Human rights for all. Guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.